Okay, welcome to another edition of the Heavy Duty Parts Report, a live broadcast. This is episode 77 of our live broadcast. Not that long ago, just a few days ago, we were discussing the situation with strikes in the automotive world and the situation with Mack, and we had some information to share with you last week. It was right up to date. Uh, Canadian Thanksgiving happened. We took the day off yesterday, and of course, everything changes. So I want to reintroduce Diana Cudmore. She is our podcast director of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. Welcome back to our live broadcast, Diana.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So we were talking all about the strikes that were going on in automotive. We were comparing that to the situation with Mack, and as of our last live broadcast, it really looked like there was going to be a deal. Taryn, why don't you play the clip? But the same union is representing the folks who work for Mack, and they've had a different result. So tell us a little bit about that, Diana.
Yeah, so we learned that on Sunday night, the Mack union workers contract was about to expire, and with 9 minutes to go, they reached a tentative deal.
So last Sunday, a week ago this Sunday, that was the situation. A tentative deal indeed. What has transpired, Diana?
Well, that deal that we thought was going to go through was actually rejected by 73% of the United Auto Workers members at Mack. And as of Monday at 7 a.m., they're on strike.
So all of the benefits that we talked about of not shutting down a major truck manufacturer, of making sure that we don't have continued supply chain issues, of how there's differences between heavy duty and automotive, looks like we're in the same boat. We have a full-blown strike at Macks. Something else indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 3,900 employees are not working at Macks plants in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Florida. And we're really not getting a good feeling of whether that's going to be a short strike, whether it's going to drag on for weeks, whether it's going to parallel the UAW strike that's happening at Ford and Stellantis and GM right now. We weren't expecting this, Jamie. Yeah.
Well, let's take a further look at that press release. There was some quotes in it. Let's talk a little bit about what Mac's saying. Do you got the press release right there in front of you?
Absolutely. So Mack's president's name is Stephen Roy. And he said, "We are surprised and disappointed that the UAW has chosen to strike, which we feel is unnecessary. We clearly demonstrated our commitment to good faith bargaining by arriving at a tentative agreement that was endorsed by the International UAW and the UAW Mack Truck Council. And even the UAW called the tentative agreement a record contract for the heavy truck industry." So from my perspective, it seems like UAW was happy with this agreement as of last Sunday. However, obviously on Monday, things changed.
Yeah, obviously they did. What was the response from the union to the comments from corporate, from leadership at Mack?
Well, one thing that I can tell you right now about that tentative agreement was that it included a 10% wage increase and that was over the first year, and a 20% wage increase over 2 years. And it also, I'm sorry, a 20% increase over 5 years with
Okay.
no increases in health insurance premiums. So that to me sounds like a pretty good deal. However, the UAW president, Sean Fain, he wrote a letter on Sunday to the Volvo Trucks Director of Employee and Labor Relations that said 15 items are still at issue, including the wage increases, holiday schedules, seniority, retirement, and benefits.
Right. So it looks like a lot of work to be done. And right now, this particular union, I think, has been quite emboldened by the things that they've accomplished so far with their strikes with the automakers. And perhaps after further, reflection, the members felt that a better deal could be struck, and that now is the time to leverage the full weight of the UAW. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with truck production. Does this spill over into other manufacturers? And of course, that all comes down to when their contracts are up for renewal. So we'll definitely be keeping a watchful eye on this. As we know, truck production impacts parts production. And so there are tier one manufacturers that produce parts for the aftermarket. They also produce parts for their OEMs. And so disruption in the manufacturing of trucks has an impact on parts. So we're going to watch this story as it continues to unfold. We'll try to get you the information as quickly as possible, but we wanted to give you this update just because if you were watching our last live, that information is no longer accurate as of October 10th.
Absolutely. Another thing that UAW President John Fain said was, I'm inspired to see UAW members at Mack holding out for a better deal. Now, this, Mack's part of Mack's investment in the heavy duty trucking industry is $435 million into these plants, which create jobs. And they're also investing $1 billion into new Mack products, which, as we know, includes their medium duty electric vehicle. And so it's really a little bit perplexing because 73% of the union members at Mack thought that this 20% wage increase over 5 years was not a good enough deal. That's really significant and could have serious implications for the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and it is understanding from an employee's perspective, right? I mean, inflation has taken a huge chunk out of people's monthly income. And if that inflation number keeps going up, then, I guess from their perspective, they were looking forward 5 years and they were saying, look, if inflation continues at the current rate, a 20% pay increase over 5 years could actually be a pay decrease. And so, as someone who owns businesses, like that's hard for me to even hear because I'm like, oh my goodness, where is this going to take us in our cost structure? But from an employee's perspective, they just are trying to feed their families. They're trying to provide food and housing and education for their kids and, take care of themselves. And so I guess from their perspective, they really felt that they needed more due to the current climate that we're in economically. And then, of course, there's also the looming threat of a recession, which will impact the entire industry. And we're already seeing the precursors to an economic downturn. Usually the trucking industry goes first. We're seeing tonnage down. We're seeing things like that that are these great indicators that, hey, things are slowing down in the economy. And usually on the heels of that is an economic slowdown. So all of this is it's all interconnected, and we have to keep a close eye on it. And we have to look at how it's going to impact the heavy duty parts industry. So make sure you go over to heavydutypartsreport.com. If you haven't already, follow the show, sign up to our weekly email. That's where we're going to make sure that you're up to date with the latest content. We've got a new episode out this week. It just dropped on Monday. So even though it was Canadian Thanksgiving and I was off, and so was Taryn, our producer, the Heavy Duty Parts Report still published a new episode. What was our episode on Monday that dropped?
So we were speaking with Daryl Grady of SSR Lighting Solutions. He's the director of engineering, and they come from an automotive background where lighting is, roughly 10 to 20 years ahead of heavy duty, maybe. So yeah, SSR Lighting Solutions has a super easy to install LED lighting kit for the interior of trailers. Now, the industry has been using dock lights for the last few decades. And with LED technology and batteries getting smaller, it's time for an LED trailer interior lighting kit, and SSR Lighting Solutions has brought that to the market.
Right. So make sure that you head over to heavydutypartsreport.com, or you can listen to that wherever you get your podcast or watch it on YouTube. We also want to just take a quick moment to thank our exclusive sponsor, Find It Parts. This entire program is brought to you by Find It Parts. Head over to finditparts.com today and check out what they've got there. Whatever parts we talk about on the show, they're usually available on finditparts.com. And also, if you go over to their site and you go to their 100 days of giving, you can use a coupon code of HDPR5 for 5 additional opportunities to win in their giveaway leading up to Christmas. So go over to finditparts.com/100 days, use coupon code HDPR5 to get 5 additional entries and support our exclusive sponsor. Thank you so much, Diana, for giving us this update. Really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in to another live broadcast. We will be continuing to do live broadcasts as needed as these stories break to keep you up to date. And our podcast drops every Monday, so don't forget to tune in. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.